What's going on, guys? So you are in for one absolutely amazing video. In front of me, you are looking at one absolutely beautiful truck. This is a 1973 Ford F350. Yeah, it's a one-ton super camper special pickup truck. Now, there are so many cool things going on with this truck, and this is absolutely one really awesome opportunity that I have to work with my father on a truck that he recently acquired. So I got my father here with me, and he's going to go over some of the details of this truck. But before we do that, let me tell you the backstory and the reason why this truck is sitting here today. Okay, so 1973 Super Camper Special. Now, Ford had two Camper Special trucks. They had the regular Camper Special, and they have the Super Camper Special, and this is the Super Camper Special, and there are some significant differences between the two trucks. You could honestly say they're two completely different trucks. I believe the Camper Special was only a 250 and the Super Camper Special was only offered in a 350. So the backstory here is that one night at the dinner table, I'm talking to my father about trucks, and my son-in-law is looking for a pre-owned truck. He's looking for kind of his first truck after college to be able to get something that he can drive around that's reliable. And if you don't recall, we did videos a long time ago on this black Chevy Silverado that we put a bunch of accessories on for about $500, and we featured it extensively. Well, that's my son-in-law's truck. And he sold that truck, went to college, finished college, and now he's looking for a truck that is relatively new, but not super old, and he's looking for something that's just reliable. So I've been directing him to look at all sorts of different vehicles from every brand. If he can find one with the mileage, the cab configuration, and the specs he's looking for, mainly four-wheel drive crew cab truck, and something that's not less than 10 years old with under 60,000 miles on it, that's probably going to be what he finds. But when I told my father this, my father's brain went way back and said, you know what? I think a really cool truck he should consider is a 1973 Camper Special. And then he started looking at them, showing me pictures of them. Then he said, you know what? Even better, if he could find a Super Camper Special, that would be a pretty rare find, and it's a pretty awesome truck. So I thought the conversation was over. It wasn't. The next day, I literally call my dad, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm sitting in front of my computer looking at Super Camper Special trucks. I think I'm going to buy one. He found this one in Florida. We're in Texas, by the way. And he had it inspected 2 days later, had it shipped down the following week, early the following week. And literally like a week from the day he told me about the truck, he had one sitting in his driveway. And this is that specific truck. And boy, is it absolutely beautiful. Now, here's an interesting thing. I don't know how I felt about how this truck looks like 20 years ago in my life. When I first probably saw this body style, I can't recall if this was a body style of Ford truck I was a huge fan of or not. But I can tell you, as I've gotten older, I truly appreciate this look. This look is just absolutely amazing. Before we walk around it and talk too much about it, again, I got my father here, and he's going to talk a little bit about what you're looking at in front of you. So, Dad, if you don't mind, kind of share a little bit about the details of this truck. We already know the year and all that stuff, but talk about it a little bit.
Well, as I was telling you over that dinner conversation, I kind of had a soft spot for this particular style of truck because I used to work for a guy that would get a new one of these about every 6 months on his ranch. And I fell in love with the body style. I fell in love with I think it looks more proportional because the cab is not bigger than the box, which is something that I think always made the older trucks look better. A lot of arguments about having 4 doors and carrying more people, but I think a truck should look like this one looks. This one was fairly short production. I think they made 4,000 in this particular year. And then I think that was the highest production year. I think they went down after that. But I've always liked the older Ford trucks. I thought they were very good-looking, tough trucks. And when I had the chance to get this one, I kind of jumped at it, took a chance, had a pre-purchase inspection done. Everything checked out good. I had it shipped here to Texas, went right through safety inspection. They found no problems on it. And so I haven't decided yet exactly how much I'm going to do. I don't know that I'll do a complete frame-off restoration because it was a California truck, and so there's not hardly any rust on it at all. And aside from the exhausts that are a little bit louder than for my taste, I'll probably go to some quiet mufflers and reroute the exhaust back out the back end like it's supposed to be, and just basically work on getting it super reliable and to where it's a nice daily driver that looks good.
Yep. So let's go over some of the specs. So this truck had a couple engine options for its year, and then they made an engine optional change kind of mid-year. So this being a 73, what engine is in this truck?
Well, this one came with the 390 engine. Later that year, I believe they went to a 460 option, and a lot of guys are upgrading to the 460. It's a popular package among the guys that have these trucks. This engine runs perfectly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got 90,000 miles on it. It doesn't smoke. It does reasonably well as far as drivability. It shifts heavy. It does have a Dana 70 rear end in it with a 373. That was an optional ratio. I believe the standard was a 410, but it doesn't bother me that it's a 373. It's got plenty of torque, and I'll just have to suffer with the gas mileage. You don't buy these trucks for the gas mileage.
So from a drivetrain perspective, these were only available in two-wheel drive, right? You couldn't get these in four-wheel drive.
That is correct.
So, and I believe the reason for that is because, again, just like modern trucks, two-wheel drive gives you more payload capacity, and boy, does this truck have an insane amount of payload capacity. What is it, about 5,000 pounds?
Well, the GVW on the truck is 10,000, but the cargo capacity is around 5,700.
Oh, so this thing's a beast. So when you compare this even to a modern truck, this thing's going to have very comparable payload capacity to a single cab or a regular cab modern F350 single rear wheel truck. And that is, again, those trucks with those higher gross vehicle weight ratings, 10,000 pound GVWR on this thing and about 5,700 pounds worth of cargo capacity. Absolutely insane. How long is the bed on this? This bed, and maybe it's only because this is a single cab truck, but the bed looks kind of insanely long.
It's actually an 8-foot bed.
Okay.
Some people do mistake. They think it's like a 8.5. There was, I believe it was Chevrolet and or GMC that made a 8.5-foot bed for a little while, but this has got the 8-foot bed. What's noticeable about it is the rear axle, if you'll notice, is quite a ways to the rear of the bed, more than it would be on an F250. They increased the wheelbase to 140 inches on this truck to move the center of the weight carrying back so that they could accommodate a 12-foot overhead slide-in camper.
So this is the Super Camper Special, and that doesn't necessarily mean it was designed for what we consider to be, modern RVing where you hitch up a trailer to the back or you put a fifth wheel over it. This was really designed to carry an incredibly heavy Ford manufactured slide-in bed camper, right?
Yes, that's right.
So that's really cool. So again, the payload capacity in here was all built around carrying a very, very heavy, very modern looking. If you actually go back to 73 and look at the Ford produced slide-in bed campers, they look like something you might see today. They're very, very aerodynamic. They don't look like those wood paneled, stick and tin units like you might normally see on older trucks. These are specifically built by Ford. It was a limited run, and I believe it was actually a co-op between them and another company. Do you recall what company that was? Was it StarCraft?
I don't remember. I do remember that they did cooperate with another company to build it, a company that was specifically a camper manufacturer, and it would be nice to find one of those campers. There are a few out there still, and you can see them if you go Google it on the internet. But I don't think I would want to have one of those right now, just simply because the modern campers have too many pluses to go with them. The slide-in overheads were, susceptible to side winds, and they just they were state of the art at their time.
Yeah, but not so much anymore. So, again, if we find one, and we have actually been looking around, because it would be kind of cool to pair this with kind of an old classic camper, and there's a lot of folks on my channel who really want to see more slide-in camper. I mean, what better than restoring like a 1973 Ford slide-in camper to go in a 1973 Super Camper Special pickup truck? That would be really, really good content. That said, there's a lot of cool things going on with this truck, so let's quickly walk around it and take a look at a couple of them. I want to point a couple things out. Everyone's going to say these are not stock wheels. We know they're not stock wheels, but they actually look really good on this truck. I don't know if you'd want to return back to the factory steel stock wheels that were available in this thing, but...
No, not really. I didn't care much for the looks of the wheels. These were on the truck when I found it, and I'm pretty happy with the way they look.
Yep, and the tires themselves, you might think that this is like some larger tire that's been put on the truck. This is the original spec size tire that actually came on this truck, right?
No, actually, the original tires on the back were 12 inches wide. If you find a picture of an original Super Camper Special, you'll notice the back tires are significantly wider than the front. And they were heavier rated just for carrying the big heavy camper. They didn't have a dually back then, so that was
like a super
their
single,
approach.
essentially. Yeah.
Yes, they look like a super single. They were on a wider rim, and they were, I believe, a 10-ply tire. But they were specifically put on the back of the truck only.
Okay.
The front tires were the normal size.
Okay. Now, the other thing, too, is the exhaust. This is not stock where it's coming out the side. The previous owner, I believe you said, installed Flowmasters, and that's going to come off. You're going to put a much more subtle, more stock OEM-style muffler on this coming out the back sides, right?
Right. Yeah, the tailpipes originally come out at about a 45-degree angle at the back corners of the bed. I don't particularly care for the exhaust exiting in front of the rear wheels, especially with the Flowmaster mufflers. It's uncomfortably loud. I don't care for it that much, so I'm going to change out the mufflers to something more OEM and reroute the tailpipes back over the axle and out the back corners.
So here's a question for you. So when you were 18, would you have liked how this is set up today?
Ooh, that's the question. I would have liked the sound, I'm sure. I still don't know that I would have cared for it to exit in front of the rear wheels.
So what did you have when you were 18, just so I remember? Or the coolest car you had between 18 and 28?
Well, I'd have to default back to my favorite car. It was a 68 Plymouth Barracuda Formula S.
Okay, well, there you go. Now you kind of know my father's lineage there. I see 2 fuel caps. What's going on here?
Well, actually, you could have gotten 3 on this particular truck, but on this one, they have 2. There's the forward one is actually the auxiliary tank. The one at the back is the main tank. And they each have about a 20-gallon capacity. And they are switchable. In the cab, there's an electrical switch to switch the gauge from one tank to another, but there's also a valve at the base of the driver's seat to select which tank you actually want to draw fuel from.
Very cool. And we'll probably do the interior in another video because this one's going to be a little bit lengthy to go over everything going on outside of the truck. The frame rails on this truck are absolutely insane. They're like, how tall are the frame rails?
I believe they're 8-inch C-channels.
So they're huge frame rails. Back then it was all C-channels though. There are 9 leaf springs on the leaf pack each side. 9 leaf springs. That is insane compared to most modern trucks, even dualies that might be lucky if they have 5 leaf springs. Well, there's actually 8 main and then 1 overload. They are thinner than modern leaf springs and they are narrower than modern leaf springs. Right now, Ford uses a 3-inch wide leaf spring and they're probably close to, shoot, a 1/2 inch thick on many of the trucks. These, of course, are significantly thinner, more like a 1/4 inch thick, but there's a lot of them. You've been driving the truck around quite a bit and you say that the ride is what you would imagine most 1-ton rides would be whenever they're unladen, right?
Yes, it's rough, and there's no way to soften that. It's got the twin I-beam front suspension that Ford invented supposedly to help make it ride a little bit better. But when the back end hits anything, you feel it. You know it.
Okay, and what's the transmission specs in this?
This one, because it's a Super Camper Special, it's got a 4-speed automatic transmission. The regular Camper Special, I believe, is a 3-speed Ford-O-Matic, and I'm not really positive who manufactured the 4-speed that is in this truck. But what I've read in the documentation is it has a 4-speed automatic transmission.
Okay, very good. And I can see it has all modern LED light. No, I'm kidding. Not LED lights on something like this. This is all incandescent lights. Boy, it's in great shape too. So we have a few things going on here that have been upgraded. The bumper, to me, I'm not sure if it's stock. Were you able to confirm if that rear bumper was stock or not?
I do not know. I have read that the stock bumper actually was mounted on sliding rails, so it could be pulled back to carry campers or to provide no bumper if you had a camper that needed that space. But I don't know that this is the original bumper. I'd be surprised if it is.
Okay. It's got a 2-inch receiver. It's got a 7-way. That's obviously a modern aftermarket 7-way that's been added on. You just put this bed cover on, and that's mainly so if you go pick stuff up with the truck, you can protect it from the elements. It's very strange how this is set up. Let's drop the tailgate here real quick. It is not a slow opening tailgate, just in case anybody thought it might be. Let me get some lights turned on in here for you real quick.
Not yet.
Okay, so now we have some lighting going on in here, and one thing you're going to see, well, hopefully you pick up on, is that this is a double-walled bed. So you actually have this bed wall, which is pretty much flush with the inner wall of the fender, going all the way to the front. Was that common in this generation of truck to have a double wall, or did it kind of contour to the inside like more modern trucks do?
I think that this was one of the things that Ford liked to advertise. It's been a while, but if memory serves, one of the commercials they made when they were advertising this feature is they would get somebody in the bed with a hammer and beat on the inside wall to demonstrate that it did not damage the outside wall should your cargo shift around and make a dent.
Okay, well, that makes sense. They don't do that these days. Even though it is a double wall, they try to contour it to the inside as much as possible so you have as much possible cargo volume in the bed. Very heavy steel tailgate. You can see the holds here, not cable holds like you used to see in the past. All right, coming around this way, there are a couple things you may start to notice, and I want to see how many people pick up on it before we get to it. So anything special about this area that we're looking at?
There were some camper stabilizers. There's one on each side that you could use for tie downs, and then they used to also fasten somewhere near the front of the hood, but I don't remember exactly how they did it, but they provided some stabilization when you had the big slide-in camper on board.
Okay, let's go up to the big nugget that a lot of people probably didn't notice because it's pretty well camouflaged. So this right here. Now, some people may look at that and just assume it's some type of side storage, but some people may have glanced underneath and noticed the bottom of something protruding out. What do we have going on here in the side?
Well, when Ford stretched the wheelbase to make it more capable for slide-in campers, they ate up the space that was required for the spare tire behind the rear axles. So what they did was they built a panel forward of the rear tire, and that panel, when you remove it, the spare tire is in there in its carrier.
Yep, and it actually protrudes into the bed quite a bit, so it takes up, looks to be about 8 to 10 inches of interior bed space on that side, even past that double wall that's back there currently. Right. Is there anything up front we should probably take a look at?
The front bumper guards are kind of unique, and I've not been able to figure out exactly what purpose they served. I'd be interested if anybody could shed some light on it. On both of the front bumper guards, there is a hole at the top. There's a pipe that runs up the back of each bumper guard. It looks to be factory, or else it was really machined well by someone. But I haven't figured out the purpose for them. Maybe it had something to do with the overhead camper bracing. I don't know. I have not seen them on any other picture of the Super Camper Special, and I've talked to a couple of experts, and they can't tell me what they're for. But it would be nice to know.
So people are going to assume some type of a light bar, possibly, like you said, a bracing for the camper, because I kind of feel like that could be a thing. Or maybe a bracing for something else that was supposed to go over. Possibly something that you mount to the front. I don't think they put flagpole holders on these trucks. But yeah, there has to be some reason why there's holes right here on each side. And they're not super sturdy. I mean, they're held on by the same bolts that hold on the bumper guards, so they also can shift with those slightly.
Actually, they're not.
They're not?
No. You can see down, there's a single bolt that goes through this pipe, and it's not part of this.
Okay. But it moves with that, which is interesting.
Well, this is also loose within it.
Yeah. That's interesting. What do you guys think that is? If you know, that would be amazing. If there's actually an old Ford engineer who watches the channel and absolutely knows what that's for, we'd love to hear from that as well. All right, so we're about to wrap this video up, and then we'll do another video on the interior. But yeah, this is a cool truck, and we're going to do a lot of content on it. We're not gonna do anything destructive to the truck. The point of this build is not to restore this 100%, not to make it the type of truck that, you know, everything looks like it did when it came off the factory line. The point of this is to make, like my father said, a very reliable truck, a truck that he can drive all the time and not worry about. So there's going to be a lot of upgrades to the truck, but that don't take away from it cosmetically. They're going to all be upgrades that are just designed to make sure that the truck is reliable and safe on the road in a modern era where you have to stop faster, you have to have better lighting, and you have to have some technology that can help you just see a little bit better maybe around the truck. So that's the upgrades that will be done, but there's a lot of restoration that's going to take place with this truck, and most of it's going to be on the inside. So the next video we'll talk about that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment. Now's a great time. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.